Hey guys, here we are with a very special video that I wanted to make with Tszyu. I don't know what the heck is up with his dad calling him Tim or Timothy, or maybe he's got like a real crazy name, but this is Tszyu's son. And I don't know if you guys, watched boxing, or if you guys were fans of Tszyu, when he was, the 140-pound fighter, where everyone was kind of ducking him, and Floyd was accused of ducking him, and Tszyu was a legit fighter. Like, man, was he exciting. I mean, I might have like a little bias, I wasn't the greatest like boxing analyst when I first started watching him, but he's one of my favorite fighters by proxy, because my first boxing coach ever was a huge Tszyu fan, and therefore, I would just sit in the gym, in between rounds, in between workouts, and I would work out when I trained. Like, I'd be at the gym literally all day, and in between, like, little sections of workouts, between the mitts or the bag or whatever I was doing that day, he had a little TV in there, and I'd just be watching Tszyu fights. And when I saw that his son was going to be on the undercard of Kell Brook versus Errol Spence, oh man, I got so excited. I was like, what? I didn't even know this guy was a guy. And I'm super excited to kind of watch and look at his last fight. And so we're going to check it out. We're going to do like a film study breakdown of it. Kind of like a, I don't know what I want to call this kind of series, but I think it's really interesting to look at fighters really early in their career, and break down their skills. And then you can kind of assess how they improve over the course of their career, with multiple film studies. Kind of like the thing what I did with Gervonta Davis, right? Someone who was very green in that first fight that I was showing, very green, struggled really early, really late in that first fight, and then just, in the next fight, his very next fight, just blew up as a fighter, and wound up like, really impressing me. I didn't even think it was the same fighter, But anyway, Tszyu's son, man, let me just say right now, in his fourth freaking fight, this kid is blowing my goddamn mind. Anyway, I apologize for saying that. I don't mean to offend anybody, but just blowing my mind. Let's get into it. Check this kid out, man. Really good fighter so far. A little bit stale of a guard, so far. I mean, we're like 1 second into it, but showing him the jab. Pulling back, you can't really see what's going on right there, so we won't talk about it. He's got kind of a weird technique on his right hand. If you look at it, look how he brings his foot all up in the air. Really interesting, but he's still young. Got a little time to work on that. Showing him some jabs, and look at his reflexes. Really interesting. I wonder what he's setting him up for there. Maybe he thought he could land a left hook. His opponent comes in with the jab, gets his hand on it, control him, throws a jab. Good jabs. Really interesting right here, right? His opponent goes to throw a jab. He pulls back, gets his hand on the jab, and then controls his head, right? Really high-level stuff so far. Feinting him, some good feints. Not a very active guard at the moment. Ooh, but tricky. Check this out. Shows him the right hand, feints it, doesn't throw it, see how his opponent's going to react to it, and then just throws one, catches him with a good shot. Really high-level stuff, showing like great uses of feinting and a little bit of probing with that right hand right there, and setting up his shots, and then goes straight into this. Really good right here. Jab, he misses the jab, gets his right glove up to catch a counter, right? It doesn't come, but he controls his opponent's head at the same time, stopping him from landing any punches, and then catches him with a big right hand on the way out. This head control, though, Might be a little excessive, right? He might need to pull his elbow down so that his glove is on the guy's neck, rather than it being so excessive right there. But his fourth freaking fight. His fourth fight, and he's using high-level techniques like this. Good reflexes right here. Catches him. Shows him the one, right? Doesn't commit to it. Probing jab. His opponent brings his glove up to block it. And then, boom, scrapes him with the right hand. And then gets out of the way of the counter. And then controls his head. Catches him with the jab and controls his head. Some good reflexes from him. His opponent kind of throws himself out of position, and he catches him with the right hand, and then controls his head on the way out. You can't really say too much about that. That's his level of opposition. But look at this jab right here. I want to talk about this. Look at how he leaves his jab out there, right? He doesn't snap it back right away. He plants himself after throwing it to see how his opponent's going to react to the jab. And his opponent just brings up his high guard, and he throws a right hand in between. Let's just take a look at it in slow-mo, just so you... Whoops. I don't know if that came across very well. But, boom. And you can see he just doesn't rip it back and throw it a hard, and quick 1-2, boom, boom, right? You can tell that he's getting a look at his opponent after he throws that jab to make sure there aren't any changes in his guard. Really, again, here he does the same thing. Jab, control his head, and then when his opponent gets under his jab, immediately controls his head and starts moving back. Let's take a look at his footwork, though. His feet get a little bit close right there. I don't really like that. He's got some time to iron that out. But, ooh, really clever right here. Throws the right hand. Did he land it? I'm not sure. Yeah, it kind of looks like he lands it, but he knows the counter is coming, right? He knows the counter is coming and gets under it. But look at the timing, right? Boom. And he waits for the counter to come. You can see him pop his head up right after. Boom. He gets a look at his opponent and starts rolling it. And then controls him on the inside. Doesn't take any shots. And they tie up, whatever. Controlling his head while his opponent jabs at him. Showing them the jab. Misses that jab and then controls him. He does some other really good stuff in this round too. Oh, again, this is exactly why you probe. Shows him the jab, boom, boom, not doing anything. His opponent doesn't react to it. He doesn't move his head, and what does he do? Takes that time to launch a right hand. He's already blinding his opponent with the jab in front of him. He's never going to see the right hand coming. Catches him with a great shot. Probing him, getting a feel for how he reacts to it. Probing, and then catch him with the right hand there. Controlling his head right after he kind of eats a couple shots. And look at how he reacts to it. I think he eats that left hook. The left hook counter. His opponent's, kind of touches him right there. Controls his head. His opponent reaches for that punch. Not a lot of power in it. But he doesn't panic. He doesn't bring his gloves up. He doesn't bring it... he doesn't fall into a little shell. He's really experienced and calm, just completely controlling him after eating those shots, and throws a right hand. Misses the right hand, I think. Yeah, and then immediately goes back to controlling his opponent's head. Really experienced for only his fourth fight. Now right here, does he eat that jab? I don't know. Let's see if he eats that. No, his opponent misses the jab. He goes to control his head, slips that shot. And this is a little bit excessive, right? Because he's pushing his head down. He's past the point of just controlling him, and then lands a right hand. It's a little excessive for sure. And then again, shows him the jab, probes him. His opponent just stands there with the jab in his face, and then can't see the right hand coming, And that's another interesting thing too, right here. When he puts the jab out, his opponent tries to touch it with his backhand and not his front hand. We'll talk a little bit more about that later in the second round, but let's just keep going. Controlling his head, showing him the jab. And again, his opponent doesn't vie for lead hand dominance. He doesn't bat the jab away and just eats a big right hand. This is why you probe. You get your opponent, you see if they're going to react and if they're not going to react. And then if they don't react, you catch him with a big shot, right? Again, his opponent not really reacting. That was good right there. That's really good. His opponent starts coming in, controls his head and turns him. Controls his head again. He should have let a punch go right there, but, you know, he's so young. Again, the same jab. When he throws it, he leaves it out there to kind of measure his opponent. Boom. And then rips it back and throws a big right hand. This kid has got some serious skills, man. Probing again. Catching him with another right hand. Oh, man. Yeah, his opponent, you know, kind of giving these shots away. Letting him get those by, you know, lunging out of position. But Tszyu doing a lot of great things here. Again, he throws a jab. When his opponent gets under it, controls his head, and gets his glove up, you know. His opponent could have landed that counter, but he didn't. Again, his opponent kind of telegraphing right here that he's going to counter, right? So he throws a right hand, gets under it, controls him, and pushes off. Really high-level stuff from this kid so early in his career. Right there, misses the right hand wildly, right? And then controls him and pushes off. Controlling him, throws another right hand. And this kid literally cannot miss with the right hand. Controls him. Doesn't expect an extra punch because his opponent hasn't shown him one yet before. And does land a good shot, you know. I think the guy's literally, yeah, he's completely in the air when he lands it. But he controls his head after eating that shot. So good work by him. Even though he does get caught right there. Probing again. Oh, that was interesting. Probe. And he tries to get his glove around his opponent's jab to pull it down, but he doesn't get control of it. Really interesting technique here. Misses the jab and controls his head. I don't know. Yeah, ooh. I think he could have got away with throwing that punch too, but good on him for not throwing it, being very sportsmanlike. Probing again. Throws the right hand, but it's not a real right hand either. It's a probing right hand, and then he lands a left hook off of it. Really interesting. Boom. Controls his head again right there. Going in for the right hand. And this is why most fighters, you know, you're not supposed to do that, like very Mayweather, bend at the waist all the way down. Because Tszyu, you know, maybe he's a huge puncher, maybe he's not, who knows yet. But he kind of lands this right hand on the back of his opponent's head. And then controls him on the way out. He does that right. But his opponent really shouldn't be bending down that far. It could be dangerous. But this kid is looking really good. Excuse me. Probing some more. And when he doesn't land the shot, really smart. Probe, right hand, and jumps back. You know, and he didn't even really throw that right hand hard. I think he was kind of waiting for a counter and trying to catch him with a counter on the way out. Misses the jab. Really smart. Misses the jab, controls his head, and moves back. Not taking very much return fire. Lands a right hand or misses it, but controls his opponent on the way out. Really smart stuff, man. This kid, and it's so early in his career. Oh, man. Look at that beautiful feint, man. How brilliant. And this is why you want to feint and probe your opponents, right? I had an interesting discussion with one of my viewers about A-level fighters and how Mayweather does set up his punches and stuff. And we were talking a little bit about how Mayweather doesn't always set up his punches. But most of the time he gets away with it because he's got such high-level defense. But in the case of like being counterpunched, right? Not many people try to really counterpunch with Mayweather. They don't really try to counter him. But he's susceptible to it because of the fact that he doesn't always set up his shots with feints and with probing before to get information about your opponent, right? Whoops, the video froze. Okay, yeah. So he feints him, sees that he's going to counter, right? And he knew he was going to counter from before, and when he feints him, his opponent goes to counter thinking it's going to be a real punch, and he catches him with that one, boom, 2, 3 shots. because his opponent is getting used to his offense and trying to time him and land his own counters, but he just brilliantly feints him. He could have done the same thing with a probe as well, and just land some huge offense. And those punches were basically free, you know? Anyway, let's get on into the second round. I'm going to try to make this quick. Ooh, sneaky stuff. So he comes out, his opponent thinks he's trying to touch gloves, you know, but he's trying to control him, right? Lead hand dominance. And his opponent makes a huge, like, cardinal sin with lead hand dominance and starts touching his glove with his jab, with his right hand and not his jab hand. And then he goes, with that hand already extended, he tries to catch a jab. He gets cracked with the left hook. Now, it's really interesting, you know, a little bit of story time. The last time that I was training at a gym in my hometown, or my new hometown or whatever, I was just trying to get back into shape. You know, I hadn't fought or like trained since I had been like really seriously injured, and we're doing these like shadow sparring thing in the boxing class, and they're like not a lot of instruction, you know, and I just instinctively go out there and start controlling my opponent with my jab, you know, not punching them, but, you know, just doing exactly what little Tszyu here was doing. Keep your hand out there, you show him the jab, right? And I do the same, you know, I have the same little trick that I would do. You get him to react to the jab, and you bait him, you set a trap, and you throw a left hook. But when I go out there and I do that, there's this girl there that was my shadow sparring partner for the boxing class. And don't worry, I beat the shit out of her. No, I'm just kidding. But I started doing that, poking my hand out there, right? And vying for like lead hand dominance to try to get her hands at home, you know. But she's automatically just instantly battling back with me. And she's got her jab hand out too. And we're like touching jab hands, trying to like control each other's jab hand. And I like take a second, like a break, and I'm like, oh, that's really interesting that you know this technique, that you've used it. You know, I never seen anybody else in the boxing classes use it. And I started asking her where she got it, and she's like, oh, you know, one of my friends does like mixed martial arts, and he competes, and whenever we train together, he does this to me, and it's so annoying, and this and that. And I'm like, oh yeah, well, you're doing the right thing, you know, this and that. And the boxing coach of the place, he overhears what I'm saying, and he literally starts yelling at me in the middle of the class, yelling at me, telling me not to tell his fighters or tell whatever to do that. You don't ever touch a jab with your jab hand. You always catch it with your right hand, and this and that. And he's literally yelling at me, berating me in front of everybody in the boxing class. And I'm like, whatever, dude. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. And I was like, hey, man, I'm sorry. I didn't mean nothing about it. I wasn't telling her to do that. You know, I wasn't trying to teach her anything. It was something she was just doing. He starts yelling at me. He doesn't want to listen, whatever. And I kind of get a little frustrated, and I go out back to the back to the shower, and I'm like, whatever, dude, I'm done. And the coach actually comes back there and starts yelling at me again, like, this is my fucking class, and blah, 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 blah. You know, you come in here, you want to be telling people to do this and this and that. And I'm like, hey, man, I didn't say anything. He's like, you know what? If you want to teach these boxing classes, if you want to do this, you know, we could throw on the gloves in old Chinese movie style. We can have a duel out in the ring. We could fight for it, blah, 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 blah. and challenges me to a fight. It was crazy. I didn't wind up fighting him. You know, I'm like out of shape, and this guy actually used to be like a really, really, really accomplished amateur fighter. Not, you know, he was also a professional fighter, not as accomplished, but you know, he was probably a decent fighter. But we don't wind up fighting, and you know, I apologized to him, let him know it's a misunderstanding. And like a little while later, he asks me to be an assistant boxing coach at his gym under him, you know, like unofficially or whatever. But it was a weird story just all after that. I hope you guys didn't find that like a boring anecdote or whatever. But it was just a really interesting story that I thought I'd share because when I saw that guy doing that, it reminded me of that little story. But anyway, let's get on into round 2. Yeah, his opponent missed that big shot, whatever. Again, his opponent comes in, telegraphs the jab, causes Tszyu catches it, gets a piece of it, and look at how he has his left hand out too, right? Now, normally I say that's a cardinal sin, right? But he doesn't have his left hand going, or yeah, his left hand is not going to his opponent's jab hand, right? He's not putting both hands on one hand. He's getting the other hand ready to catch the follow-up punch, right? So normally it's a cardinal sin, and that's what I mean when both hands go to control one hand, whereas little Timmy Tszyu's looks like it's going to the other hand. And then Tim kind of jumps in with this hook. He misses, but look at where he positions his hand, right? This is like old school inside fighting, right? He gets his left arm down by his side. His right glove is up, kind of like, you know, an aggressive style, like Philly shell, right? And then he brings up his arm, and it kind of looks like he's trying to control him with his elbow at first, you know, but I think actually was his opponent grabbing his arm? I don't know. Let me take a look at that again. But he gets it in there, gets real close. I don't think he takes any punches or whatever, but doing some really good things, not just putting his arm around his opponent to tie him up, you know, but looking to use real boxing skills to get out of the situation like he does. Ooh, his opponent telegraphs that he's going to come in, catch him with a left and a right hook. Really good, really great technique from this kid. He's doing a lot of really good things. And then controls him after the shot. Excuse me. Man, this bug is killing me. Ooh, his opponent goes for a jab to the body again. He controls him, controls his head, and spins and turns him out. Really high-level stuff from this kid. And keep in mind, this is his 4th professional fight, man. Number 4. Controlling him. Shows him the jab, right? Sees how he's going to react to it, and then goes to the body with the jab instead. Oh, man, look at that, dude. His opponent thinks it's a jab because he's been using the jab. Catches him with the left hook. And what does he do? Off of the left hook, he blocks the left hook coming from his opponent and controls his head at the same time and doesn't eat a shot. Really high-level stuff. I'm not sure if he was going about this all the right way. His opponent goes for he feints him with the left and throws a right to the body. You know, his opponent probably could have gone upstairs with that, but after he misses with that, he goes to turn to block the left hook in case it comes, because that's the natural punch coming after the right, showing that he's got great fundamentals for like the ABC style boxing, and then controls his head and pushes off. You know, this kid's showing some really high level skills. I'm sorry if I keep saying that. Again, feinting him, shows him the punch, misses the jab, controls him. Oh my God, look at this. Probing 101. Shows him the jab. He ducks down, right? Gets a look at what he's doing, knows that he's ducking it, right? Now probes, shows him the jab, and sees that his opponent going to counter him, and then catches him with a right hand. Does he probe with the left hand again? He does. And this is why you probe your opponent. You know, he shows him the left hand, boom, makes him react to it, pulls information from his opponent, sees how he reacts to it, and then catches him with the right hand based off the information. You know, very high-level offense from this kid, and high-level defense. Probing with the jab, setting up his offense. And this is just great stuff. This is the kind of boxing that you don't need a game plan to fight your opponent, right? Like most fighters are like, oh, my game plan is to establish lead foot dominance and throw my right hand, or, you know, against southpaw, you know, or we want to use our jab and fight on the outside. We want to, you know, but when you can do these kind of skills, right, you have these kind of offensive skills and understanding of boxing, you don't have to have a game plan. You can just use craft. You can just control your opponent and set your offense up and figure out, you know, when it's appropriate to throw a punch and when it's not. You know, this kid is showing, like, you know, really high-level stuff. There we go. Tries to control him, but his opponent gets in too quick. You know, he could work on his guard a little bit, you know. be a little less stale, hide these punches like this jab right here. I don't know. I don't think he lands it. His opponent looks like he lands, or looks like he moves his head a little bit. Nah, I guess he does get a piece of him. I mean, it's not the greatest opponent, right? Ooh, probing right there again. 1, 2, and then lands the body shot. You know, not the cleanest body shot, but whew, look at that right hand, though. Controls him when he tries to slide out. Ooh, measures him and throws a right hand. Man, this kid's got some serious skills. I don't actually know what weight class he fights in, but man, just landing these right hands at will. It's interesting because he is landing a lot of right hands and a lot of power shots, and he's not really dropping his opponent. But he can land them just, you know, anytime he wants so far. And against, granted, like, you know, lower opposition and stuff. Control him. Misses the shot. Shows him the jab, right? When he reacts to it in a way he doesn't want to, controls his head and pushes him off and resets. Good defense. Man, this kid is he's something to be excited about. I'm really looking forward to seeing him on the undercard of the Brook versus Errol Spence. What happened there? Let's see. Oh, caught him with a huge shot, and the guy takes a dive. I don't know exactly what happened. He caught him with a good shot. Maybe it dazed him quite a bit. Caught him right on the temple. But anyway, this guy's showing some really high-level boxing skills. So far, he's got all the makings of, you know, what's going to be an A-level fighter. You know, very high-level offense, although it's not super varied at the moment. You know, we saw like a lot of right hands. He did kind of work in a left to the body there. But against like this lower opposition, you know, he doesn't really have to show a lot to beat these guys. But also showing a really high-level defense, too, showing a lot of skills. We'll have to see him fight like a little bit better a fighter, make sure he's like, you know, always in shape or whatever, and, you know, yada, yada, yada. But showing all the makings of what's going to be, you know, a very A-level fighter. Oh, and I want to talk about that a little bit, too. Man, I wish I didn't wait till the end of the freaking video to say that. But one of my viewers was talking to me about the gradings that I have and how I grade the fighters completely like in a vacuum, right? Not in relation to their peers. And it was really interesting that he pointed that out. And because I never thought about it, I'm like, okay, it doesn't matter. You know, when you're thinking about fighters, I'm thinking about all fighters encompassing, you know, all eras. These fighters have these skills and this and that. And it's a way of like, for me to compartmentalize them and understand their relation to other fighters. But a lot of the fighters that I give C grades, like Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia, lots of fighters. I don't want to say anybody else's favorite fighter and, like, you know, lose subscribers because I offended someone. But these fighters in modern era, these are A-level fighters. You know, when you take a look at them compared to their peers, when you line them up against their peers, they're A-level fighters. Just like that, my viewer said. But in relation to, like, you know, boxing skills, the way that I personally judge boxing skills and my understanding of the sport, I call them like C-level fighters, right? They have C-level skills, but in relation to the rest of the boxing community, you know, or their peers in like the welterweight division, those fighters specifically, sure, they're A-level fighters. I can definitely see that. You know, maybe they'd even call them just B+, right? Because, you know, if you've got Mayweather and Pacquiao right there, and those are the A-level fighters defining the not the format, but the division. Obviously, they're not as good as those two fighters, so maybe they're like A- or B+ in relation to their peers. But either way, much higher grade than I give them on their technical skills, right? But anyway, as far as this series, I kind of want to, if you guys have any fighters, I kind of want to like I want to start taking looks at like other fighters and early in their careers, and do film studies on them as they progress. So if you guys have any young fighters, I did one on the Filipino gentleman, but I think it got taken down. Mark Magsayo, I think it got taken down. I'm not sure, but I kind of want to do like a series like this, and I'll have some generic name that I call it or whatever, and do a bunch of different fighters. But if you guys have any that you want me to take a look at, leave them in the comments. And if anybody votes them up, the one with the most votes, that's the one that I'll do. And feel free to repost other ones in the subsequent videos, so I can see them and thumb them up or whatever. But I'm always on the lookout for young fighters, catch them in their career like this, and get a good look at them. It's really interesting. So Tszyu, all the makings of an A-level fighter. We'll see how his career develops, what division he winds up fighting in, staying in. Like I said, I didn't Google it yet, so I don't know what division he's in, but expect good things from this guy. Look forward to seeing him on Saturday afternoon, I guess, if you're in the States. But anyway, like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know who you want to see next. And aside from that, I think I'm going to start doing like fighter breakdowns, and giving kind of like doing some fighter rundown. Like maybe I'll do like a Erislandy Lara or Guillermo Rigandao grading a fighter, and kind of let you guys know how I see their skill sets. Not in relation to boxers of their division, but in relation to their boxing skills. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Thanks, guys.